Good morning. It is 8:36 on Tuesday, August 12th, 2025, and this is the meeting of the Sandpoint Arts, Culture, and Preservation Commission. It's now called to order. For the record, I am Chairwoman Ellie Sussness, presiding in the City Council Chambers in City Hall, 1123 Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. The commission members who are absent this morning are Carol Diener and Will Valentine. The commission members who are present are Barry Burgess, self, Kate McAllister, Caitlin Shook is on Zoom, Rick Decker is here with me, and our new commissioner, Dara Holtz. Mayor Grimm is not here, but Eric Bush is here and he'll be joining us later on. Did I miss anybody?
No, I think that's everything.
We will now proceed with the approval of the minutes from the commission's last meeting. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held July 8th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Kate moves, Rick seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Onward to the financial reports. So the funds that we use for most of our public art are from the Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency, the Art Fund. So the art funds we have for the downtown district is $221,340.02. Northern district, we have $119,116.95. We still have $1,684.68. The silver box project hasn't been reimbursed yet in the downtown. Any questions on the sewer funds? All right, moving on then. We'll head down to Mission Business of Arts. So number 3 on the agenda is the update on the spring 2025 solar box project. Let's see. So we were able to install Lee Harris's Kingfishers on the corner of Oak and Fifth on the last week of June. And then due to scheduling, installed Denny Henson's Skyward Grace and Dave Gonzo's Beauty of Duality on the second week of July. So we almost made our goal of July 4th, but due to, meetings being postponed and things like that, still pretty darn good. I've gotten good feedback from the artists on the logistics of the call and the contract. So great job, city staff, helping us through that. We're always looking to improve the processes though. So I'll be working with the artists and staff to smoother. I think it really did run smooth.
That was quick.
Yeah, quick, smooth. Everybody knew what they needed to do, including the artists. It was great. Let's see. So we did put out a press release, and I hope you saw the articles in the Bee and the Reader. Daily Bee did an article that focused on one of the artists, Lee Harris, which was really great, which is what I have up on the screen there. And then the Reader put out a really great thread that showed all of the art. So yeah, it was fantastic. Thank you again to city staff for putting out the press release. All in all, I'd say that it was a successful project, and like I said, it went really smoothly. And I think the only thing we'll do differently next time is just start planning a lot sooner. Hopefully in January, we'll start planning again for the spring install. I think again, we'll shoot for an install date of probably the first week of June. Yeah. And And then we won't be, and if we start in January, we won't be pushing the
Meetings.
meeting logistics and all that. Everyone at the city helped immensely,
Cool.
appreciate that. Any questions on that or any suggestions what we would do differently or?
No, that Kingfisher's got me so many times slowing down at the
Yeah?
crosswalk, cause I
Yeah.
keep thinking somebody's
Oh.
over there out of the corner of my eye.
So
So,
colorful.
so
Yeah,
kind of
the blue is
annoying,
like-
but it's also great, cause it slows traffic down a little bit. So-
Good. All right. Well, moving on then to our, check that. Project that we're working on downtown is the Big Valley Can Wrap selection plan discussion. I have been in contact with city staff in central services, who are the ones that help us with the scoring and all of that kind of thing and contracts. I think we mentioned last time they are training. And it might be a month or two before we can get to selection. Still some questions that we have regarding STCU and hopefully get that going sooner than later. We could still wrap this year as long as the weather holds, so we could potentially still wrap into October if otherwise we may end up having to wait till spring to actually do the wrapping, but we can do the in the meantime. We'll try and get it through, hopefully, I mean, potentially even next month. That's what my hope is, but we'll have to see how staff is. They're busy. Any questions on that? Or just so you know, we had 194 children through age group. 12.
Oh, yeah.
Submit drawings to app. Two of the Big Valley towns.
My daughter actually submitted to it.
Very good. Okay, so. Oh, we have a couple of.
She's pretty excited.
I know, and I hate to put her off, but
She did ask me the other day, when are the monsters gonna be on the trash cans?
we will be on it ASAP. All right, then next up, the Andre wooden sign refurbished and placement discussion. Turns out, and Will was talking to me about this, he didn't fully express how big this sign is.
I told you it was.
I went and looked at it. It was still over at the museum when I went and looked at it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because I asked Austin to go grab it and just go, and he's like, I didn't get it because I needed two guys in a bigger truck.
Yeah.
So it's 8 feet tall
Yeah.
and 5 feet wide, and it's like old school 2x6s doubled up. So it is huge and
Mhm.
heavy.
Yep.
So we will be working on that. So be thinking about where and how we want to do this, because whatever we do, it's gonna have to have a really stable
Mhm.
framework or building or whatever we attach it to, is gonna have to be beefy.
That's why it was hung under the trestle.
Yes, actually,
chamber,
now I get it.
Yeah.
It's like, this thing huge.
Yeah.
Okay, did anybody think about where we might be putting it?
City Beach. Boat. Boating
Yeah, I
area
like
or
it too.
there.
Okay, dogs.
Yeah, before you said it was 8 feet tall, there is the sign there that I was thinking it could go on the side.
Oh, where the life jackets are, maybe?
Yeah, it's around that area.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I saw one where maybe the life jackets weren't on it, but I think that would be too big
Okay.
for right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is, okay. But around that boat dock area would be fun.
Yeah.
If it's like across the parking lot into the lawn or something like that,
Yeah,
facing south or something.
yeah.
So it's readily visible to everybody. Okay, very good. All right. Well, I need to check in with Austin and double check where he's gonna store it so that it doesn't get lost in the shuffle, but we're on it. All right, moving on to the street lamp banner program planning discussion. did research. I did reach out to Dig. I don't have her email, but I reached out to via social media and I know she's busy. I didn't hear from her, but some research on my own. Banners run about $85 to $100 each for an 18 by 30, which is what I approximated the size we need for the attachments that we have on the so that means if we have 50 lamp posts plus a $250 to $300 stipend for the design, be about $5,000 one season. And we had talked about 2 seasons,
Mhm.
so you know that we'd have to decide how we want to go about that.
We can use Sura money, correct?
I believe so. Actually, I was hoping
the
the mayor
downtown?
would be here
Yeah,
to clarify that, but I'm pretty sure. we-
yeah, yeah, I think we can.
Yeah. So this passed out a sheet that talks about, the UV printing, the digital printing. And it talks about how color fading and UV exposure affects designs. This site that I was on actually explained it very well. There's this refers to the UV index. If it is lower than 7 for last year, we have 1 month that we are 7 as far as the UV index. Can you guess which month that is?
August.
August.
No, it's July. Yeah.
Oh,
So, and when I was looking at that, I was thinking, well, that makes a lot of sense because if you look at our vinyl wraps had on for 5 years,
mhm.
those have UV protection as well, and they are still as bright and beautiful
Yeah.
as the day we put them in. So I'm confident that we should be able to get use out of these banners.
Sure.
So,
And then by that time, Averill Hospitality should have their, Sura will be getting more tax base, right?
there you go.
So
That's a
then
good
maybe
point.
we'll get some more. Yeah.
So I will keep doing research on that. But is that something that everyone is asked about?
Very.
Yes.
And yeah, I was thinking about it. I think it'd be great to have, eventually have like our summer, a winter.
Mhm.
And then maybe in the off seasons, we can have other community involvement.
Oh,
But really talking to the nonprofits. And each nonprofit in town would put up $100 to have theirs up there.
oh, yeah.
So if it's like our nonprofit week,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we get those out. But just because we have so many around,
But the only drawback to that is the cost for the city staff to
Yes.
put them up.
that would be, yes, that's true.
Yeah, so. And I don't
It
think
is a-
they'd let us do it.
It is a pretty big upfront cost, so, depending on the nonprofit, there
Yeah,
might be prohibitive, but definitely, I thought it was very successful when Give
Right.
did that.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, should we have a motion to continue down the path of P and getting Sura approval?
Yeah, I would go ahead and do the motion that way you just covered.
Okay, all right, I would entertain a motion to continue with our planning. Going to Sura. Being up an RFP. Being involved with central services to make sure everything's on up. To continue, developing this program.
So move.
Okay, Kate moves. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Excellent. Okay. So then onward. So this one up is the Cedar Street Public Art Commission. Cedar Street Public Art Planning Discussion. So you noted in the financial report, we have plenty of money in our SURA. And we've been doing a great job moving forward with our mid-level programs. However, we have not done a large piece of art since we put the roundabout in at Schweitzer Cutoff. And some of you may not know, but the SURA agency will sundown in 2029. So we need to
Spend
be
money.
spending our money. So I talked to Carol Diener and we talked about jumpstarting that with a project on Cedar Street. Some of you who were on the Art Commission may remember and we were doing the downtown revitalization phase 1. The Art Commission was involved with the planning of that. And look here. It's on Cedar Street, there are 3 areas that have reinforced concrete so that we can put a fairly large sculpture there. There's one on 2nd and Cedar, there's one on 3rd on Cedar, the hospital side, there's one on 4th and Cedar on Bonnie's big blank wall side. Or the Cedar Street ends.
West.
Yeah, it's west. So Caroline and I talked about this, and we would love to commission a sculpture, jumpstart this, to be placed right here. And we're thinking probably 15 to 20,000. 2,500 of that being the memorial donation that we still have from the Gretchen Hiller Trust.
What about using the, I know we've just sort of briefly touched on it now and then, but what about using the existing
Arch?
arch? Yeah, to do something, not sculpture, but also
Definitely.
keep that in mind, because I think that would be a great place to put something.
Well, one of the things we talked about was using that as like a designation for the historic district.
Oh, yeah.
So something like that, something arty.
Okay.
So
I just hate to see it go to waste. It's been
No,
sitting there forever.
it's been sitting there for, since they started the downtown revitalization. So,
Okay.
but actually, since they changed the streets.
Since they
which was
changed the
when,
streets, yeah,
I don't
a
even.
while ago.
That is, just start that. And
Okay.
again, I wanted to ask you guys if that was agreeable. We it's in mind to commission, we haven't anybody but you guys yet. The other thing about this public art money is we don't have to do a commission or call. We can also just purchase out art outright.
Okay,
So that's another thing to think about. So if you guys are excited about that, I would say we'll get a work team together and start thinking about that. So, since Carol's not here, she may have had some other notes, but at least I think we need to make a motion to continue doing this.
okay, I'll make that motion. I move that we put a sculpture at the corner of 2nd and Cedar and use funds from the ceremony. That capture it all?
Plus the Gretchen Hiller.
Plus the Gretchen Hiller Memorial Fund.
Second round.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unheard, motion passes. All right, moving on. Mission Business of Culture. The summer historic walking tour, downtown walking tour. Thank the staff for putting the event up on the city website, Cami, and Facebook. Made posters as well. Saw that. We saw the
Yeah,
poster around town.
uh-huh, yeah.
We actually had 20 drop-ins,
Oh, wow.
which is something, yes.
Yeah, that's great.
It was very successful. I followed along people and it was wonderful. We had a mix of locals, longtime locals and visitors. Seemed very enthusiastic about learning. We're having another one on the 22nd of August. So, want people to drop in. After hearing Michael's presentation, I do think there are some architectural details we can add for interest, Barry, so maybe that's another thing that we can work on next winter is to kind of flesh out some of the highlights. Things, because he touched on some of those things, but I definitely think there's lots of color and great details that add to the story. All right, any questions on that? I think the drop-in worked great. Tammy, were you happy that there was registration? Okay, very good.
Times registration, just like.
All right, then moving on, let's go to, let's see. Well, I was gonna have the mayor speak to the local historic district design review overlay. However, he's not here, so I will let you know that, Bill Dean, the head planner, did give a presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission a couple months ago. So they are initiating conversation. So we'll just keep on and on this front. Any questions about that? Right. And we'll move on to general commission business. This brings us to the historic tree definition discussion. And we have Eric Bush, the project manager and city forester here at City.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Amy, I'm gonna request to share my screen.
Yeah.
So let me give you a little bit of background. Eric Bush, I'm the city project manager. I do capital projects. I'm also the city forester. So in working with the Urban Forestry Commission, we're working on a bunch of different tasks. What happened there?
So Ellie,
Quit sharing my screen. so
did you
can-
put something on, is there a piece of paper on?
Oh, maybe I didn't actually hit share.
There you go.
I got part of the way there. Okay. So in working with the Urban Forestry Commission, we've been working on a bunch of different tasks. But one of the tasks we've been working on is identifying definitions for heritage trees. Heritage trees can have a bunch of different categories. But what we've decided on is 5 categories. And I'm going to pause on this and I'm going to go over to this document real quick. I'm not sure if you all have seen this. It's been around the city since I think around 2002-ish. It's a great document. It's also some of those trees don't exist anymore. So when we started this discussion and conversation regarding heritage trees, my original intention was to use that heritage tree definition, those definitions, to update this document. Folks love this document. We've got a couple hundred left in City Hall, the actual printed pamphlets, and the front desk staff hands them out, and people kind of use that as a scavenger hunt and walk around town and look at trees. It's pretty cool. So it has kind of introduction and then a little map showing where all the trees are that are in this, and then descriptions of each tree that's identified. Getting back to this definition or this document. What we tried to make this big so it was readable. Hopefully it's readable. We've got 5 categories. The Urban Forestry Commission has voted on categories 2 through 5 and adopted these definitions as a commission. So those are specimen, rare, significant growth, and ecological. And I'm happy to go through those in more detail if you would like. The one that I requested they not vote on yet is historical, because I wanted the opinion of this commission. And Ellie joined our meeting 2 months ago, our June meeting, and kind of gave background on the historical category and provided some input from that perspective and her perspective as the chair. But I wanted this whole commission's opinion. So let me just can you all see those categories, or should I read them really quick? Let me start with those, and I'll then we can go up to historical. So specimen implies a large tree, an individual tree, that is not necessarily just huge, but has been around for a long time in Sandpoint, has particular characteristics that, as the definition says, may qualify the tree as unique. Rare would be trees that we don't have a lot of in town, particular species. One that I am thinking of off the top of my head is elm. Of course, back in the 20s and 30s, and it continues today, there was Dutch elm disease that wiped out the majority of the elms in the United States. We have a couple in town. Unfortunately, one just died. Right kind of across the street from Winter Ridge on private property, just a little bit south of there on Hoyer. There is another one right next to it that is alive, and I'm hoping that was not subject to Dutch elm disease and it died for another reason. They're big, beautiful monster trees. Significant growth is literally a grove of trees. Part of what we were discussing in the context of this definition is the trees right across the street at Pine Street Park. There's some really large ponderosas, large trees, and a couple Douglas fir trees. And those are, if you say, not that we're doing this by any means, but say all of those trees were removed but one. That one tree that was remaining would likely not survive, because trees have their roots kind of intertwine and they protect each other from wind and the like. So grove is, a number of trees. It could be 5, it could be 50. But we felt it was important to kind of identify that as, more than one tree. And most of these other definitions are for kind of a single tree. And then ecological is vague. Obviously, every tree provides ecosystem services and ecological benefit. But this definition was decided on something that is a particularly unique ecological benefit. For example, at Lakeview Park and the wastewater treatment plant that's right next to Lakeview Park, there's a handful of trees that are on the lake shore that provide nesting for bald eagles. If you hang out there, you'll see them, all day cruising around. We've got some other trees throughout town that provide nesting for ospreys. And various other things. It doesn't have to just be birds. It could be lots of things that, are unique. It could be stormwater that, this tree is uptaking a lot of stormwater at a particular location. But going back up, the definition that I have in blue is historical, and this is a working definition, and this is part of why I'm here, because I wanted your all's input on this definition. But let me just read this one. A tree which by virtue of its association with or contribution to a historical structure or district, or its association with a noted citizen or historical event. So with that said, I'm kind of done with my piece here, and I'm happy to discuss. You guys can discuss, and I can pull up my Word document and revise this definition as we're having this conversation.
Can you give an example of one of the historical trees?
I would say, blank on what it's called. The Sandpoint facility that's along First Avenue, where we have events, south of downtown.
Oh, the
Community Hall, thank you, Cammy. There's a number of large trees there and community hall's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So I would categorize a couple of those trees potentially as historical trees. And I'm not a historian, so I don't know the history of that particular location, but obviously it's been around a long time and, you know, there was likely some notable events or individuals that had a, you know, kind of a part of some of the history there. You could also, I think, categorize some of the trees that are at City Beach, for example, as historical,
Mhm.
some of the larger mature trees out there. But with that said, I am open to discussion and conversation about that. And this definition, I think, is a good start, but like I said, I'm not a historian, so feel free to, you know, tell me, let's wipe it out and figure out a new definition, or we can revise this or anything.
Well, I think you have to be really careful with a noted citizen. Does that need to be in there? Because I can go plant a tree and, you know, what if I'm famous here? Then it's like, don't cut down Kate Street.
I think you're famous here, Kate.
But I mean, to set a precedent of, you know, and how do we know? So I think that it shouldn't, I think it should just be historical event, like the building of City Beach or the community hall. But if we get into the noted citizen, I just think that it's, I mean,
I get so personal that
Travelers is a good example.
yeah,
Think I agree with you, and the reason I'm thinking that is above you is the picture, right, of an event.
Mhm.
That more so, it's more about the event than it is about the person, and I
Right.
think that, you know.
I just think it could be one of those things where, you know, certain people get involved and you're gonna have a lot of flack.
Sure, absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah, and so I think historical event is great, but then you have to define noted citizen. What do they, you know, what do they have to give to the community before they're a noted citizen? And I just think that could get the city in a sticky wicket.
Sure.
yeah.
So how about, or its association with a historical event?
Yes.
I will
Association,
remove
yeah.
the noted citizen.
Yeah. I'm thinking of you.
Thank you. That's a great point. And part of the other, four definitions that the, Urban Forestry Commission was working on was trying to, pair out those exact things.
Mhm.
And not, you know, not define any of these definitions as something that could be misinterpreted or, you know, be something that creates a problem down the line. So, you know, the other four are, I don't want to call them vague,
They're
but
vaguely specific.
they're vague. That's a great way to describe it. Yeah, vaguely specific in that there's nuance.
Mhm.
You know, they could be taken this way or that way. But it's not, what we were trying to guard against was, you know, in the future, say 20 years from now, if I'm no longer with the city and the commissions are, you know, have a bunch of new members, what their interpretation would be, could be wildly different than the one that we intended, you know, to in 2025. So what we've got right now is a tree which by virtue of its association with or contribution to a historical structure or district or its association with a historical event.
I like it.
You thought maybe location?
Well, I was just thinking, when you said community hall, that's just what made me think about. Shit.
And time of influence?
Same.
In that case, that's a historical structure.
And two,
Because of the USO and the Farragut sailors. Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna share my screen with the Word doc. Um, would you like a location piece or portion included in this
I
or no?
think if it's,
And your district is kind of all encompassing
Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's vague enough that it can be interpreted as a location.
And I think that many of the trees that would ultimately be categorized under this definition are likely in the proximity of downtown. There's obviously some other parts of town that could, apply to this definition, but mostly once you get outside of South Sandpoint, much of town is newer. And, it, I suppose could be argued that those trees are, they're younger, they're smaller for the most part, are likely not subject to this definition.
Are there any historical trees that you know of that are, well, you talked about one that actually was on private property. I can think of one in South Sandpoint. I had on South First. It's the big, it's like almost to the corner. It's the big, the limbs.
South First and,
Thick.
oh, yes, right. Yes, I know which one you're talking.
Yeah, that big lot, that's actually a historical house. That had, an owner of the hardware store was a prominent citizen in the 1900s. So that could potentially be a historical tree. In fact, it might be listed as a historical tree in the booklet. I'm not even sure.
About.
Just thinking, how that works on private property.
I think it is, it's a, butter. The unique name for it. I believe it's this one here. It's number 4 in the document. And let me zoom in.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Big tree.
That's beautiful. It's a great climbing tree.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
And a butternut tree is a kind of a variety of nut trees, but very, very similar.
I have a question. Can you guys hear me? Hi. Let me start my video. So who decides which trees are like, is there somebody that goes out and uses all this criteria and then claims that this tree here is a heritage tree? And does a heritage tree mean that it's protected from being cut down? I just want to know what a heritage tree really means. To begin with.
As far as who decides, that hasn't fully been vetted and worked out yet. Likely that will be something that the Urban Forestry Commission, takes a vote on individual trees or groves of trees, depending on the category. And this is something I would have to kind of vet with, Melissa Ward, our city clerk, and ultimately potentially our legal, advisors. But I would suspect that, or hope that ultimately that would result in, folks, whether it's city staff, members of commission, or the general public, could bring forward a particular tree or grove of trees. And then the Urban Forestry Commission would take a vote on that and, decide whether that was, included under one of these definitions or not. But that's just kind of my take without having gone through that process yet. And
Okay.
Caitlin, did you have a second part of your question? I apologize.
Yeah, like, like if there's a citizen, like say you, like Kate was bringing up this, or Ellie was bringing up on a private property. So let's say if you love this tree on your own property, can you bring that to whoever's deciding and make it protected? Yeah, and also I wanted the definition of a heritage tree. Does it just state that this is a protected tree and can't be cut down or something?
I would hope that anyone could bring forward a tree, because obviously there's me, there's the Urban Forestry Commission, and there's you folks. That's 10 or 11 or 12 of us. And, we've all got the ability to see stuff and note stuff throughout town, but for me, you get the best, results when you could have a whole bunch more eyes than 12 of us. If you could have the population of Sandpoint or Bonner County or something like that that are looking at these, and if they're interested, they would have the ability to bring that to the Urban Forestry Commission. That would be my hope. But like I said, that piece hasn't been vetted. And as far as protection, like meaning is if one of these trees is categorized as one of those 5 definitions under heritage tree, that is TBD. And that's a part of that is, of course, depending on legal advisors, and part of that is depending on how it relates to city code. So city code does have mention and note of heritage trees. But it doesn't currently identify like protection mechanism or anything like that. That's
Okay.
something that could potentially be revised in the future, but again, I'd have to defer to legal on that.
Yeah, and I think you could, on private property, you could, well, we're coming up with it, but ideally, nominate a tree on private property. But that wouldn't protect it if you sold your land and next owner, wouldn't be
Oh.
able to cut it down.
Right.
Like it's private property up here, we wouldn't be able to tell somebody.
And to your point, that is, Idaho private property rights. But that doesn't mean that a tree couldn't be categorized as that. And I think that is important. And we're not, saying, hey, private property owners, we're gonna force a heritage tree designation on you. I would think that would have to be with their kind of sign off. But for the purposes of the, outstanding trees of Sandpoint manual or just general notoriety of a particular tree, I think that would be a great way to, have it, because we have our right-of-way trees that are city-owned trees throughout town. We have a number that would likely fall under this definition, but we probably have double that amount or more that are on private property. And I would hate to not be able to identify those trees as, something of note.
And by noting it, it also does if you sell your house. If you put it in the listing, I have a heritage tree here,
Mhm.
somebody might buy it because of that tree and we're gonna cut it down. So we're not locking it in, forcing, but we're encouraging. Oh, so.
Yeah.
Right, and there are municipalities throughout the country, whether it's a city or a county or a state. And I'm thinking particularly of places like Boston, Massachusetts, or Providence, Rhode Island, really old cities that have been around for a long time and have really robust historic preservation mechanisms. We don't have that in Sandpoint, but those cities and lots of other cities throughout the country do have that. At minimum, identifying these trees, I think is a win and cool, because like I said, when I was identifying, showing the outstanding trees manual at the beginning of my talk here, there are folks that would, grab this pamphlet when it's updated and go walk around and look at the trees. I have,
Yeah.
and I'm also a tree nerd, so, not everyone is like that, but much like the, historical walking tours you guys were talking about earlier, that is something that's of interest to a lot of people.
A lot. And I would say that the tree designation is much like our historic building designation. Again, they're not really protected at this point. We use education and advocacy to people understand the value of these things. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And yeah, for me, it's awareness, if nothing else, being aware and having a document or a designation. So folks that are interested in that sort of thing can, they're not going to go well, some might, but we would hope they're not going to go trespass on private property to look at a tree.
Mhm.
But if they know there's a cool tree on private property, they can go, go down the street and take a look at it.
What about, it's kind of like buildings, this, if we could come up with some sort of like little plaque. Yeah,
Oh.
I'm trying to make these look so great that,
Right.
it's special, right? And the buildings, it's special.
Yeah.
Somebody could scrape it. But if you're buying it, it's got a nice little plaque.
It says heritage tree.
Yeah,
I think that would be great.
yeah,
And it's obviously quite a bit easier to do that on trees that are, on public property, whether it's in a city park or a right of way tree.
Mhm.
On private property, that would be, of course, property owner dependent, but if we had, plaques that we could provide, and I don't know that it would necessarily need to go into the details of historical specimen,
No.
et cetera, but just heritage tree, identified in 2025 or something to that effect, I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much like, if you walk through the Arboretum, at,
Mhm.
at Lakeview Park, they've got, a lot of it's educational and they identify a Douglas fir and et cetera. And those plaques are super cool. I think of it like being in a, national park or state park where they've got interpretive signage throughout.
Mhm.
And it's an education thing. And, a lot of folks can't tell the difference between a Douglas fir and a grand fir or whatever. But when you see the sign, you're like, oh, okay. And that's, the same as a heritage designation to me.
Yeah. Excellent.
So I revised, I made a new PDF of the definition that, that was kind of revised. So
Great.
what we're at is a tree which by its virtue of association with or contribution to a historical structure or district or its association with a historical event.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent. Well, and Ellie, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was an action item on your agenda.
Yes.
If this commission is prepared to vote on it, I will then take it to the Urban Forestry Commission at their meeting later this month and have them vote on this definition as well. And then we will have our 5 categories with defined and, defined terminology and definition.
excellent. All right. Well, I would entertain a motion to uh approve this definition
yeah.
as a historical tree. That's right.
Second.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Great, thanks. Thanks, Eric. That was great.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And if we get to a point where we're, getting these trees defined and talking about plaques, to identify them, I think this commission will. The
Yeah,
plaques could be
absolutely.
any number of things, but I could call it a arts related thing personally. So I'd love to, I'll keep you updated if we get to that point, I'll come back and we can have that conversation. Awesome. Thank you,
Excellent.
guys.
Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Well done.
Great.
All right. Well, then our next item is election of vice chair. So again, we are not a full commission with the 2 absent today, and we are still down. What do you guys think? Should
Can
we
we-
hold off?
yeah.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Table it. Mhm.
Let's table it again. We will revisit next month. All right, let's head on to the Commissioners Roundtable then. Just completed a big summer of events, so anybody got anything going on, or? Actually, we could introduce our new commissioner,
Mhm.
Dara Sid.
Everybody
Yeah.
pauses.
Double check.
The shirt.
Dara.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us about yourself.
Let's see, graduate of SHS, class of 1999, moved away, moved back. I currently work for the festival at Sandpoint as their development and community engagement coordinator. I've been there about 6 months. Love Sandpoint, love the history of Sandpoint, and I think that a lot of our cool, awesome buildings should be preserved. So that, my kids can move away and come back and share it with their children. So I think that there's a lot of value in that. So, and obviously I'm big in the art scene of Sandpoint. So I'm happy to be on this commission. It'll be a good fit.
Happy that you're here. And I also wanted to say thank you, Caitlin and Ari,
Mhm.
for being here.
Yeah.
You guys do you guys want to meet my son?
Yeah.
Where is he? There he is. Oh, it's bad lighting, but he's the cutest.
Let me bring him here so we can smooch all
I was
over him.
thinking that to bring him here. Oh my buddy.
I know.
The most famous baby in all of Sandpoint.
Yes. Also, I wanted to say that we just announced at the Canada that Viggo Mortensen is coming to show one of his films called Falling, and that's on August 29th, and it's a benefit for the Canada and KRFY.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Nice.
Very good. All right, the only thing I have to add is make sure that you tell your friends about the historic downtown walking tour on the 22nd.
Yeah.
That's a Friday.
Yeah.
At 10 a.m. in front of the Pendleton Theater.
And if you're not doing anything that weekend, Patsy Cline is going to be at the Hive. It's a 2-woman show, myself and Holly Beeman. She sings 27 Patsy Cline songs. We have a live band. It's a true story about a woman that she made friendship with, and they are pen pals for 6 years. Yeah, August 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at the Hive. And it's audience participation, so it's a lot of fun, and yeah.
Well, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, thanks, everybody. If there's nothing else,
I
then
just,
oh, go ahead.
my last thing is just, my favorite time of year here is the festival. And we love it so much, you know, and it's great that, you know, we can bring music and it's so unique to have something like that
Mhm.
here. So, just want to thank everybody that put so much into it, and, you know, it's such a community event.
Yeah.
So,
Great effort.
Definitely will pass that along.
yeah,
All the positive love we can get, we
Yes,
will
right.
take,
yeah,
for sure.
they know I'm your biggest
It's
fan.
it's
but-
a big, yeah, it's a big undertaking, but it's pretty fantastic when you think that I'm the 7th, but there have only been 6 staff members that have put that on for the last 5 years, and
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
Mhm.
It's really an unreal experience to go through.
Yeah, and actually, I guess since we're sitting here in the city, I think, you know, the city with all nonprofits, you know, I think we really need to like work together and stuff like that. And, you know, there's definitely gonna be things that come in, you know, there's probably like butting heads of things at Memorial Park and working together and stuff like that. But if we can keep our cool heads, you know, when things come in the future, because things are coming, the Second Amendment, the alcohol are bringing drinks in and stuff. So hopefully, as you know, the city side, we can work with the festival to make sure it stays around for a really long time. So
For sure. Thank you for that. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And we are adjourned. Thank you.
Great.